I take out the lens cloth, boom, and I breathe on it. So it gets foggy.
Don't breathe on your lenses to clean them. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Felicia and today I'm going to teach you how to clean a lens. It's an important skill to have if you want to be a camera assistant, if you're a photographer, or even if you're just a hobbyist and you have a camera and a lens and you want to maintain and keep that gear for as long as possible because you've spent your hard-earned money on that. Before we get started, I do want to point out that other people do have different methods of cleaning lenses, but there are pretty distinct rules that you should probably follow to maintain and keep it for as long as possible without any damage, as well as certain items that you should definitely have in your kit. So we're going to get into the items right now. The first thing you're going to want to get is some lens fluid. 100% definitely need this in your kit. This one is Roscoe's Lens Cleaner and I'll leave a link down below. It is designed for clear or coated lenses. The coating on a lens is an important thing to maintain. Cinema lenses and photography lenses tend to have film coating on top, which allow for better transmission of light through the elements, as well as a couple of other things like look and style of the lens. That stuff can slowly be worn away if you use incorrect items on your lens while cleaning. For instance, if you're using some lens fluid that is designed for your sunglasses or for your reading glasses, that stuff can have a slightly different chemical makeup and can break down that film coating. So yeah, definitely get some that is designed for cinema and photography lenses. Next up, you're going to want to get lens tissue and a cleaning cloth. I have the Roscoe version of the lens tissue, and then the Selvet or a microfiber cloth will even do. Have a few of those handy as well, because if one gets dirty, you can move on to the next one. Most importantly, keep those inside a plastic bag because you're going to want to keep them clean. If any dust gets onto the tissue or onto the cloth and you start wiping that on the lens, you can scratch and damage your lens over time. Another thing you could look at getting, which isn't 100% necessary, is a set of paintbrushes. This one here is a little bit coarse than what I would like to use on the front of a lens. I wouldn't really recommend using paintbrushes on the front of a lens, but any brushes like this, which are fairly soft but still a little bit too coarse, you can use around the outside of the lens to remove any dust or dirt that may be working its way around. But yes, only on the body of the lens, not really on the front or the rear elements. However, if there is dust particles on the front or the rear element, you can use cotton swabs. Have a whole packet of these in your kit because you will go through quite a few of them. Also, as a dust remover, you can use these things here. It's just a blower. I've seen them shaped like rockets. Mine is not shaped like a rocket because I got it really cheap off eBay, but it still does exactly the same thing. So all you need to do is give it a little bit of a squeeze and you can blow the dust right off the lens. Failing one of those, you can also use dust off. It's not 100% recommended by a lot of people. I do use it on occasion, but it's really not the greatest thing you can use. You'd really use it for really hard to remove dust. And finally, you're going to want to get a torch or a desk lamp so that you can see the dust that you're cleaning off the lens easily. Okay, so now we can get into cleaning the lens. First off, place the lens face up on a soft, stable surface, unless of course you're cleaning it while it's on the camera. Next up, use a torch to see if you can find the dust and the marks on the lens that you need to clean. Before you get started actually wiping the lens, make sure that you blow off any of that dust. So use your little handheld blower or use your canned air to just brush away that dust. If you don't remove the dust before you start cleaning the lens, you can actually cause scratching over time. Now that all the dust has been blown away and you're left with the marks that need to be cleaned off, you can start to wipe the lens clean. On a lens tissue or on a clean microfiber cloth, place a small amount of lens fluid and then start in circular motions from the middle of the lens to the outer rim of the lens. If you notice any streaks here, use a piece of the cloth or a piece of the tissue that is slightly drier, not completely dry, but slightly drier, as you may have used too much fluid. Never ever clean with a dry cloth or a dry tissue as it can scratch very easily. Now we can do exactly the same thing to the rear element. Now if you're cleaning it while it's on a camera and the rear element isn't dirty, you don't need to worry about this, but if you're just cleaning and maintaining the lens, flip the lens over and now let's have a look at the rear. Sometimes this can be really hard to get to depending on which mount you're working with, especially with EF. This can be a very hard to reach spot, so you can use the cotton swab to get in there with the lens fluid if you so wish, and then dry that up with a slightly drier cloth. But do remember to blow off any excess dust before you start the cleaning process. process. Make sure you're doing these whole processes very gently. You don't want to push too hard or risk any scratching. And if you do notice a buildup of grease on the mount of the lens, this especially happens with PL mounted lenses, you can remove that grease using a cotton swab and a small amount of fluid. I wouldn't recommend doing this too often, as the grease really isn't going to damage your lens at all. It's just if it seems a little bit too messy or a little bit too dirty. But the grease actually does perform a function in terms of placing the lens on the camera. It does allow that to easily happen rather than jamming up. And you don't want your lens jamming to the camera. Once you cleaned the rear and the front element, you can look for any more dust that might have landed on there in the time that you've been cleaning. If you do notice any dust, grab your dust off or your hand blower and then gently remove that as so. If you're using dust off, never use it directly onto a lens. Always use it on an angle and make sure that you're not right up close to the lens. If you use it straight on or very close to the lens, it can blow the dust into the corners of the lens and eventually inside the elements of the lens, and you're never going to get it out if it's there. Canned air is not really canned air, it's also got other chemicals in it. It is a gas, a compressed gas. That's why it's not super recommended to be used while cleaning lenses, but still, it is used in the industry, and if used correctly, it is okay. So yeah, just make sure you aren't too close or you're not using it straight on. Also, don't use it upside down, because if you do use it upside down, that's not good. So there we go, we've removed the dust, the dirt, the grime, everything we need to from the lens, and now it's perfectly clean and ready to use. But once you're done there, once you've removed all the dust and done your clean, have another look with your torch just to make sure you haven't missed anything, repeat some steps if you have missed some stuff, and it may take a few goes to get it exactly right if you're looking for the perfectly spotless lens, but otherwise, after one go, it should be pretty good to use. The main thing here is to just make sure there's no streaks. But there we go, that is how you clean a lens. Well, at least that's how I've been taught. There is a little bit of a grey area with compressed air or canned air, but if you use it correctly, there should be absolutely no issue at all. And for the love of God, don't breathe on your lens to clean it, please. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today, and if you did learn something today and you enjoyed the video, please remember to give this video a big fat thumbs up. And if you would like to see more of my face and learn a little bit more about filmmaking in the process, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next Sunday.